It's the International Soccer Preview. We are Soccerphiles Canada. Welcome to Series 31, looking at the players of the 2025 African Cup. This episode is looking at the players of Ivory Coast. Part 1, the candidates. Here we go. Hello and welcome to the International Soccer Preview by Soccerphiles Canada. I'm Kevin and this is Series 31 on the players of the 2025 African Cup. This episode covers Ivory Coast's players. So we move on to Section 3. In Section 3 we want to welcome listeners who are just listening to the short version of the mediacast because we're releasing this as a short version on Ivory Coast players. So in the full version, we introduced the candidates on their likelihood of making the final squad. We gave some career information, especially on the more likely candidates there. And here we're going to just review the list that we compiled in Part 1. So we're not interested in predicting starters at this point. We're going to do that when Part 2 comes out. What we have on our list here is just their likelihood of being named to the final squad. So we begin with manager. Immerse Faye has actually been quite successful with them. He came in after the group stage of the last African Cup, that disastrous group stage, and then led them to winning the tournament which they were hosting, and also did well in 2026 World Cup qualifying, earning automatic qualification. So Immerse Faye taking them through a good period here. For goalkeepers, we have a definite candidate in Yahya Fofana, a likely candidate in Mohamed Kone, and then two possible candidates, Alban Lafont and Badra Ali Sangair. We won't talk about candidates below the level of possible here. Okay, for defenders, we have in central defence, definite candidate Emmanuel Agbadou. He's probably not as much a starter, though, as likely candidate Evan Ndika. And we also have at the likely level Odilon Kusunu. We have 5 candidates at the possible level: Willy Bolly, Ousmane Diomande, Jean-Philippe Gabamin, and then 2 newcomers to the squad, Clement Akpa and Junior Diaz. For left backs, we have a definite candidate in Ghislaine Conan, and then a likely candidate in Christopher Opery there. For right backs, we have Wilfred Singo. We're going to talk about him in our injury section. He's a definite candidate unless the injury prevents him. We have a likely candidate in Guela Doué, and then 2 possible candidates probably preparing to be missing Wilfred Singo, Zogby Luck and Armel Zuhuri there. So 4 candidates on the right as right backs. We move up to the midfield. For defensive midfielders, we have a definite candidate in Ibrahim Sangair, and that's all we have. 3 at the possible but unlikely level, which we won't recount here. For central midfielders, also just 1 definite candidate, Frank Cassie, but none at the likely level. However, we do have 4 possible candidates here: Seko Fofana, John Thierry Lazare, sometimes called Lazare Amani. The third one is Mohamed Diomande, and then Pacome Zuzua. That's the central midfield. We move on upfield to the attacking end of the pitch. And here we have left attacker Simon Adingra as a definite candidate. None at the likely level, but 3 possible candidates, all newcomers to the squad: Yann Diomande, Bazumana Toure, and Parfait Guillagon. 4 veterans there seemingly off the squad, not exactly veterans, but 4 familiar names. We won't recount them, but a bit surprising there. For right attackers, we have no definite candidates, but 3 likely candidates. First one, Nicolas Pepe. Then we have forward Umar Diakite, who we put over here. And then we have Amad Diallo, also likely, but a little less likely than the other two. For central attackers, none at the definite or likely level, but a possible candidate in Jeremy Boga. And finally, we have forwards, definite candidate Ivan Gesson, likely candidate Sebastian Haller, and three possible candidates, Vakun Issouf Bayo, Jean-Philippe Crasso, and Emmanuel Latelaf. All right, those are the candidates there, and we're going to move on to the a couple of other orders of business. Big names off the squad. Well, we begin with Jean-Louis Gasset, not so much that he's a big name, the manager going into the last African Cup, just because of the drama. He was fired, or actually they say resigned, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was kind of an agreement between them both after the group stage, that disastrous group stage where they lost 4-0 to Equatorial Guinea and were in danger of not passing the group stage of the cup they hosted. So he did not last even for the tournament there. Next, we have defensive midfielder Jean-Michel Seri. Played a role in the last cup and in the early part of the period here, but not selected after October of 2024. We won't go into detail, though, on his bio, because basically they're too long. These guys are veterans. Max Allen Gradel, for example, 106 caps, so it would take a while to cover the tournaments he's been involved in. Max Allen Gradel also, though, active in the last cup. He started the last 4 games there, but then has not been called up after March of 2024. So that's 3 big names, and there are other familiar names not selected during this period. Let's take a look at injuries. We begin with left back Christopher Oppery. He was injured for the October games, which is the last set of games in our analysis here, with an unknown return date. So injured, maybe not injured for the October games, but injured after them. We will put him in the unknown category here. Next, we have left back Hussein Kamara. He's just at the possible but unlikely level, but out with a heel spur injury since late November and expected back around the first game of the Cup. However, as I said, possible but unlikely candidate Hussein Kamara. We'll put him in the expected back there, although he might not be selected. Probably the biggest one is right back Wilfried Singo. So he was out with 3 separate times, really, in the fall here. He played games in between each injury. His most recent injury has him expected to return back on December 27th. That seems a bit too late there. We'll put him in the expected back, but that date seems a bit too late. It's a recurring hamstring injury, by the way, so that's why we think they've been bringing in other players to cover in case he's not available. Next one, Amori Gobain, also at the possible but unlikely level. He was injured actually for the second half of October, but he was back in action in November. So we'll put Maury Gobain as recovered there. Frank Kessie, no. That's not the case. Frank Kessie is okay. The last one is Parfait Guillagon, injured for the October internationals, but in fact was back shortly afterwards. So no problem there. We'll put him in the recovered from injury category. Okay, let us go to closing thoughts. We do have some on Ivory Coast. We thought going into the last cup that the amount of chopping and changing, especially in the forward positions, was a problem going into the cup. We don't know if that was the reason for their problems in the group stage. We suspect it does play some role. What we think might be happening is that they have so many big names that they expect the players expect to get on the field, and the manager is trying to satisfy them. But that does create a bit of an incoherent team. And it's not a surprise that teams like Equatorial Guinea, who have a small, tight squad with players that are always on the field together, might have an advantage over Ivory Coast. However, that doesn't seem to be a problem in qualifying, and it wasn't a problem even in the latter stages of the last cup, where they continued to chop and change. It is to their credit, actually, that they didn't completely revamp the team after the poor group stage there. Rather, especially in defence and in the midfield, they just got more out of the players that were already starting. But if the chopping and changing of the forward positions did play a role, it's still the same thing under the new manager with Ivory Coast. So we're seeing different players in different forward positions, really a merry-go-round up there, and we wonder if it is affecting their performance. Okay, that is my spiel on Ivory Coast. Let's take a look at the part 2, which will come out shortly when the preliminary and final squads are selected, and we will highlight any notable non-selections, surprise inclusions, or new players. We'll also give you any updates on injuries, and finally in part 2, that's where we're going to predict the starters. So we hope this gives you a good briefing on the Ivory Coast players. We would like to thank Pixabay and Cold Fingers for the wonderful music used in this mediacast. The title of the piece is Eid Mubarak.